I saw this math problem shared the other day on r/mathmemes, and it got well over 6,000 upvotes. So there must be something funny about this, or maybe it's just a really interesting math problem. Let's start by taking a crack at the problem, then we'll take a look at this comment and reply, and some other people's thoughts. And we're gonna figure out just who this so-called Math Wiz is. It says, average person can't solve this, double exclamation point, and we're given this expression. And I couldn't help but notice that it says solve here, but actually, all we're supposed to do here is follow the process of finding the required simplified result by using the given form of this expression and already known methods of algebra. But that's not actually what solve in math means. If everyone could please take out your math dictionaries and flip to the page on solutions. We see that a solution is the process of finding a required result by the use of certain... You can put away your math dictionaries now, please. Okay, so yeah, we're supposed to try solving this, which means we want to simplify it, and thus write this expression with no square roots or any of that guff. One of the most tried and true methods of evaluating square roots is using a calculator, but square roots are complicated, so you need a big tough calculator, like this one here. At least if we use this to figure out the answer from the jump, we'll know if the actual strategies that we apply without a calculator are correct. So the square root of 27 minus the square root of 12 divided by the square root of 75, and our reliable calculating device tells us that this is 0.2. Let's see if we can confirm with algebra. So here's the expression, and we're trying to fully simplify it. We'd like to get rid of those square roots. The mentality we need to take here is similar to when you're reducing fractions. For example, if you have the fraction 4 over 12, you might want to think, do these numbers really need to be this big? Is there anything that divides out? Well, yeah, we don't need a 4 in the numerator because 4, in fact, is a factor of the denominator. 12 is the same as 4 times 3, so really we could reduce the fraction by canceling out those factors of 4 and thus writing this as 1/3. That's this fraction, but fully simplified. Similarly, we look at these square roots and ask if these entire numbers really need to be inside of them. I don't know what the square root of 27 is, but it might have a factor whose square root I do know. Really, you just need to know your multiplication table and your square numbers here. You need to know that 9 is a factor of 27 and 9 is a perfect square. Then you would think to write 27 as 9 times 3. Same thing with 12. Notice that 4 is a factor of 12 and 4 is a perfect square. So we could rewrite the square root of 12 as the square root of 4 times 3. And with 75, 25 is a factor of 75, and 25, again, is a perfect square. In other words, we didn't need numbers this big in the square roots, because they all have factors that are perfect squares. When you've got a perfect square inside of a square root, you can just take the square root of that square number and bring it outside. What's the square root of 9 times 3? Well, it's the square root of 9 times the square root of 3, and the square root of 9 happens to be 3. So it simplifies to just 3 times the square root of 3. And then the square root of 4 times the square root of 3, well, that's 2 times the square root of 3. And then root 25 times root 3, well, the square root of 25 is 5. So that's 5 times the square root of 3. Now, it should be clear to everybody that we need to do some sort of cancellation with the root 3's. The classic mistake you'll see students make in this situation is to not be sure which pair of root 3's to cancel. Is it just this one cancels with this one, and so this one stays behind? Or is it this one cancels with this one, so this one stays behind? Well, of course, if you're careful to factor things, you won't make any mistake like that. There's one factor of root 3 in the denominator, and surprise to some people, there is also one factor of root 3 in the numerator. We can take this factor of root 3 out of both terms and write the numerator as root 3 times 3 minus 2. Check with the distributive property, these things are the same. Root 3 times 3, root 3 times minus 2, that's the same as what we had before. And in the denominator, we still have 5 times the square root of 3. I'm just switching the order, which of course doesn't change anything. Now it's clear there's one factor of root 3 in the numerator, which cancels with the one factor of root 3 in the denominator. And at last we arrive. 3 minus 2 is 1, and in the denominator we have 5. So 1 divided by 5, and that of course is equal to 0.2. This is a very easy problem, and if you want to be like the Math Wiz, well, for one, you might have to improve your handwriting because this is pretty good. And for two, if you want to make your own problem like this and post it to the internet and say that only geniuses can solve it, all you have to do is pick a fraction. Then split the numerator into a sum or a difference, however you like. Then multiply the numerator and denominator by a common radical, like the square root of 7, for example. When you do the multiplication, you want to bring all of these numbers into the radical, and in order to do that, you need to square them. I can't bring the 8 into the square root unless I square it first and write it as 64. So doing the multiplication, it looks like that, and then you just have to actually do the multiplication, and you'll end up with your fun and silly problem. And there you go. Anyone who wants, feel free to steal this one. 99% of people, it turns out, can't solve this problem. So is it really true that the average person can't solve this? I mean, tell me what you think. My perspective is from the United States, and in the United States, average 8th graders learn how to solve problems like this. They may or may not do exactly this sort of problem, but they'll certainly learn the required techniques. For example, here's my ultra-rare holographic Texas edition copy of Larson's Algebra 1, and we can flip to page 716 in the book and see the section on simplifying radicals. Or 719, I was close. So here it is, and you can see them introducing exactly the technique that we just used to solve that super hard problem. If there's a perfect square factor inside of the radical, you can bring it out after evaluating the square root. Let's take a look at the response from other people and see what they thought about this problem's difficulty. The first reply in this highly upvoted photo says, well, I got A in A-level maths, and this stumped me. A-level maths, for the uninitiated, is a UK thing, and it covers topics like these. So certainly a grade A student in A-level maths would have learned mathematics far more complicated than this problem. But then somebody replied with a great explanation as to why this problem actually is really hard, and that's that it makes no sense. As they explain, the backwards F doesn't mean anything. I'll give you a second to figure out what the so-called backwards F is in this problem. Yes, indeed, although he asserts that the backwards F doesn't mean anything, and he even looked it up, the backwards F actually represents the number that follows 6, and we call that 7. That, of course, sparked a little bit of discussion on writing the number 7. I, of course, write my 7s like this, except when I write them like this. Except when I sometimes write them like this. Some people say, oh, you need the cross so that your 7 doesn't look like a 1, but I mean, come on. Maybe the truth is that your 7 needs to not have the cross so that it doesn't look like a backwards F. Someone said, dude, that's how we write the number 7. Of course, the cross can be helpful with sometimes messy human handwriting, but computer typefaces don't usually use it. French? No, German. I've always thought of how we write 7s as a pretty individual thing, but I wonder how much it could depend on country. And just like I mentioned earlier, this guy says that in Indonesia, people write 7 with the cross to distinguish it from looking like a 1. And here you can see that in action. Now, having determined that the backwards F is nonsense, this fellow likened this problem to an online snipe hunt. And if you're not sure what a snipe hunt is, let me explain it with an example. I'll show you this problem that we often give to bright middle schoolers, and they can solve it with enough effort. Take a positive integer called n. So that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., something like that. If your chosen n is even, then divide it by 2. So now your number is n divided by 2. And on the other hand, if n is odd, to get your new number, you're going to multiply n by 3 and add 1. And then you keep repeating this process on the numbers that you get. For example, if I choose 3 as my starting integer, that's odd, so I multiply it by 3 and add 1. Now my number is 10. 10 is even, so I cut it in half. n over 2 is 5. Now my number is 5. 5 is odd, so multiply by 3 and add 1. Now my number is 16. That's even, so cut it in half. That's even, so cut it in half. That's even, so cut it in half. And that's even, so cut it in half. I started with 3 and eventually I reached 1. I could continue the process if I want, but the problem is to determine if every positive integer eventually reaches 1. You would need to either prove this is the case, that every number will eventually reach 1, or give an example of a number that doesn't and explain how you know. So you could try solving that fun little problem, and that's an example of a snipe hunt. This problem, though, is not a snipe hunt. Indeed, the backwards f is just a 7, but it's possible, even if you got an A in A-level math, that you might not know the answer. Unfortunately, we forget things. Someone else said, nah, I got an A 1 year ago, and immediately after A-levels, I forgot all the math I knew. So they're saying it's totally possible that someone could get an A in this so-called A-level maths, and still not be able to do this, even after just 1 year passes. It's very common for us in school to quickly forget the information from a subject that's not our favorite, and sometimes even if we like the subject, there's just so much information going around that you forget. Is it true then that the average person can't solve this? Unfortunately, I think the answer is probably yes. The fact of the matter is most people are adults and have probably forgotten how to do little exercises like this that they might have cranked out by the dozen when they were 14, but 20 years later, they'd have no clue because most people don't do math all the time. However, I don't think it's the case that the average viewer of this post can't solve this. If somebody is getting little math problems like this in their feed, they probably like to engage with math to some degree and probably could solve this. This is kind of the meta on Instagram, which I think is where this is from, is to post something that's pretty easy to an audience who you know is at least moderately adept at math, and to say that the problem's really hard. Then you'll certainly reach some people who have forgotten how to do a problem like this, but you'll also reach tons of people who are happy to flex their skills in the comments or to berate you for your stupid caption. I see a lot of accounts that post content like this, but I never heard of the so-called Math Wiz, so I did a little bit of searching on Google to try to find the account. And I did end up finding the Math Wiz account on Facebook that originally posted this, and then found some funny comments on that. Somebody said, "Dear average persons, every square root has 2 solutions, plus and minus, so 1/5 is only one of 4 solutions in this case." It seemed pretty clear to me that this guy was joking. Of course, maybe he's not, but I think he is. However, like all jokes, it pretty quickly sparked a fiery debate. The jokester later added that he was a math teacher, and so of course he got a little bit of lecturing. "I advise you reread the initial problem and realize no quadratic equation is involved, and then think hard who is the amateur." I found the problem had also been posted to YouTube by, I think, an unaffiliated account, not by the real Math Wiz. And then of course I also was lucky enough to find some more banger math problems on the Math Wiz profile, like this one. 99% will fail. Divide 66 by half and add 33. This, of course, is just a cheap trick relying on the fact that many people, casually speaking, will say to divide by half when what they mean is to cut something in 2, which is the exact opposite of dividing by half. We've also got some classic PEMDAS slop. Only genius can solve this. By genius, of course, we mean anybody capable of performing enough elementary arithmetic to come to either one one of two completely defensible possible values for this expression. And then my favorite, which the Math Wiz said was an ultra hard problem. 30% of 60 is equal to what percent of 60? No, I'm just kidding. The Math Wiz said that this one was easy. I'm glad somebody out there is testing the public on their knowledge of the reflexive property of equality. I think my biggest problem with these silly math posts on social media is that this is probably the only math that a lot of people see or do. They're adults that just occasionally stumble upon these viral or semi-viral posts online. And then this contributes to the widespread problem of a math major, for example, going out to dinner with their family and the uncle saying, "You're a math major, you calculate the tip," when the poor math major hasn't seen a single number in months.
I'm unstable, I'm feeling hard to keep the cable cut and untuck the cable. If Texas Instruments don't reply, well, I think this time it might be fatal. Wish to sell my own fake, cause I'm jaded. Hate the odds that I calculated. Press and pull and pray and push it all the way through the whole blue planet faded. Psychosomatic habits, why you so